And I'd like to welcome the Minister to the Chamber today. But I have to say I am deeply sad that we are still needing to debate this issue, and I have to disagree with the Minister. I don't see direct provision as a way of protecting people. I think the system of direct provision is an absolute disgrace and something that we should be deeply ashamed of. And how the reality is that thousands of people are effectively warehoused, forced to live on €19 per week. They're unable to work, to provide for themselves or to continue in education. Many lack basic cooking facilities and sleep in small, cramped rooms with several others. This is institutionalised poverty, and we cannot stand over it. One asylum seeker described the conditions and the level of control exerted over him as like living in an open prison. He asked the Public Accounts Committee recently, would you consider that a home? If you are signing into your house every day, then that is a prison. We have to think about the mental health effects of this. Research from the Royal College of Surgeons has shown that depression and mental health problems are 5 times higher in the centres than the wider community. We've designed a system that denies people the most basic human dignity, and this is the result. We should also note that there are currently over 1,000 children living in these centres, many of whom were born and are growing up there. Tanya Ward of the Children's Rights Alliance has spoken about the fear young children feel in being accommodated with large groups of older men, which is really, really sad. I recently met with a young asylum seeker living in Waterford, and she told me about her devastation and not being able to continue her education like her friends. She was a beautiful young girl. Dr Geoffrey Shannon, the Government's own Rapporteur for Child Protection, has been clear on this. Direct provision is violating children's most basic rights and their ability to develop a normal life. It's just not acceptable. I know my colleagues in the CEG group are behind me on this and have made this case strongly themselves, and my own colleague Senator Colette Kelleher actually worked throughout the summer volunteering in a direct provision centre in Cork. For years people have been objecting to this, but here we are still talking about it. I know that efforts have been made to improve things, and that is really good, but if we're honest, it just isn't good enough. In May, the Government published a new migration integration strategy, but there is nothing in it on asylum seekers. The people we are talking about today don't even warrant inclusion. How can we credibly talk about the integration of migrants in this country and just ignore the thousands of people in direct provision? What message does that send? There has also been a lot said about the new single application procedure, but I've met with people going through the process who have found it almost impossible to navigate. Many have reported that it's so much more complex and difficult. Some of the translations available are so poor that they look like they were taken straight from Google Translate. It is our job as legislators to raise these issues and fix them. One thing I really want to raise strongly is the right to work. I'm a member of the Justice and Equality Committee, and our recent report on this was clear that the denial of the right to seek paid employment is a serious infringement of the applicant's human rights. Now, that is not a minority view. The report has full cross-party support, including members of your own party, Minister. It was also a key part of the McMahon report in 2015. And as you know, the Supreme Court recently ruled that the ban on the right to work is unconstitutional. What we need now is the Government to act on this. I listened to Minister Staunton debate in our report in the Dáil last week, and he said that a decision is being worked on by the departments. Could you please give us a clear indication today of when we can expect a decision and if asylum seekers are being consulted? Personally, I'm worried that the response will be overly restrictive. We will see some minor right to work doing just enough to get the Supreme Court off our backs. I urge you to push your officials to not go down this road. I realise you're in a difficult position here, Minister, and you've spoken with passion on these issues before. I know you to be a thoroughly decent man who sincerely wants to improve people's lives, so I'm asking you to go with your conscience on this and give these people the chance to work. I want to quote one man in the system who appealed to Dr Brian McMahon. He said, "Just let me work. Let me get up in the morning. Let me put on my clothes and have my breakfast with my children and come back in the evening and say, today I worked." This is not someone looking for state support. It's someone who wants to be able to support himself, like any of us. It's about basic human dignity and the ability to use your skills and your talents. This government likes to talk about the Republic of Opportunity, but if we deny people the right to work, then we confine them to poverty. Where is the opportunity in that? I'll finish by saying again that this system is shameful and it will leave a legacy that we will all have to answer for. We look back at the neglect and the abuse inflicted upon people in the Magdalen laundries and other state institutions and ask, how did this happen? Well, this is how it happens, through endless debates and reports but no significant change. Direct provision is a stain on the country's conscience and a denial of basic human rights. If we believe in justice and decency, we cannot stand over it.